Oh hey, it's Aidan, and I just saw that new Weeknd movie, Hurry Up Tomorrow. This movie's about the Weeknd, the singer, not the concept of time, and he's got a bunch of brain problems. And so Jenna Ortega comes in and she saves the day and she fixes him. This movie was directed by Trey Edward Schultz, who did Waves in 2019. But this is mainly the Weeknd's project. Abel seems to have a big part in the production himself, as he co-produced it, he did the writing, he made the songs, and he's also the star of the show. This actually isn't the Weeknd's first acting gig though, because he was in this TV series, The Idol, which apparently follows a very similar premise. I haven't seen it though, I can't speak on it, I have no opinion on it. Jenna Ortega also had a big hand in making this movie. She's one of the co-stars, and she also serves as one of the executive producers. In this movie, Hurry Up Tomorrow, it's paired with this album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, and it deals with a lot of the same concepts and themes as the album. Now this is a movie review, but because the movie and the album are paired right next to each other, I think it's worth mentioning. I don't care for this album. I think it's a little bit too bloated and long for me, and the Weeknd's newer 80s revival dance pop songs, they don't really do it for me. They aren't my cup of tea. The only songs I consistently come to, the only songs that I really come back to consistently are Cry For Me and Timeless, which are the most basic picks. Those are the singles. Everyone knows those songs. I'm a fake fan. I'm not a true expert. I like that weird boppy synth line on Timeless, and I like it when Playboi Carti sings. And for what it's worth, aside from Trilogy, I'm just not a big fan of the Weeknd's music. But you know, I make film reviews, bro. I try and go into shit with an open mind. And also, this movie's been getting review bombed online. A lot of people hate it and they say it's shit. And it's like, does it deserve this level of hate? Is it really that bad? A little bit, yeah, but I think it's getting a little too much. The opening scene is the perfect encapsulation of what this entire movie is. It's very self-aggrandizing and full of itself. There's not a lot of wasted time on that. Abel is really messed up in the membrane, but despite him being this bad person, he goes out on stage and everybody loves him, and they cheer for him. In the opening scene, he's doing a performance live, and you get to see him put on the first song of his show. It's not a good performance. All he does is kind of stand there, and people clap for him, and then he just kind of walks around on stage and sings. There's no energy behind this performance. It's for the opening scene, you think you'd put a little more effort into it. The Weeknd's trying to be mysterious and cool, and it's oh brother, this guy stinks! This movie spends a lot of time blurring the lines between the real life Abel and the movie Abel. And it makes me kind of think about what's real versus not, especially because Abel wrote this movie himself. Writing a movie about yourself where you're some genius and nobody gets you, and everyone loves your music and your poetry and your deep, twisted mind. That doesn't make for an interesting story. It kind of reminds me of that Machine Gun Kelly movie. Very similar vibes. It's like when Will Ferrell makes movies where he's the star of the show and then he makes out with some super hot girl, except this time it's the Weeknd and it's Jenna Ortega. And also Abel, he's kind of a freak. He does this thing with his tongue that I'm not gonna do, but the cunnilingus is crazy. I couldn't do it even if I tried, and I'm not going to. During every line of dialogue, there'll be these two characters talking, and there'll be a weird amount of space in between whenever everyone says the line, but it doesn't feel natural, it feels odd. It feels unnatural, like bad acting. There's also a recurring shot in the movie where every time the Weeknd is talking to someone, he'll put his head against theirs like this, like they're about to kiss. I think. I don't know, I've never kissed anyone. Also, Abel spends this entire movie being wet, physically, he's covered in sweat, or he's crying, or maybe he's just deciding to be wet. Maybe he just has water on his face. If this sounds awesome to you and you want to experience similar levels of wetness and moisture, make sure to hit that subscribe button. All three of the actors in this movie try and show off their awesome acting chops by crying on command 5 times each. And it's that's cool, but can you whip and nay-nay on command? The Weeknd, Abel, not the concept of time, spends a lot of this movie crying about his ex, and then he takes his anger out on his friends, and it makes him really unlikable. It's you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be mean to your mom. I saw this movie on opening night, and I was one out of 3 people in the theater, and when those other 2 people walked in, they pointed at me and go, "Hey, there's another guy here." So being a movie that's based off of an album, there's a lot of focus on the soundscape, the music. A lot of the music uses these droning synths and atmospheric pop sounds to like fill background ambiance. And I can't stand it. Like, the music might be my least favorite part of this movie. Another thing that really irks me is they don't use the songs more meaningfully here. A lot of the songs from the album Hurry Up Tomorrow are just copy and pasted into the movie, and they don't really work to aid the story, except for the title track, Hurry Up Tomorrow, in Hurry Up Tomorrow. Works good in the movie, Hurry Up Tomorrow. It's used well. I wish more tracks were used like that. With Hurry Up Tomorrow being the final album in this trilogy of albums, I wish that there was more of like an overarching story that comes into play in the movie, but it doesn't really use this to its advantage at all. It's kind of frustrating from my perspective as someone who doesn't really get the Weeknd's music, of like, why don't we explore that more? Why don't you show me why I should care about these worlds you're building? This movie has so much wasted time. There is not a second that's used effectively. There's almost no plot in this movie, and the little plot that is here kind of reminds me of that one Sonic the Hedgehog meme where he's like I can't explain it, I'm gonna show it on screen, but you know the one I'm talking about. There's some cool fragments of a story. There's a little plot line that goes into The Weeknd not being able to perform on stage, which seems like a direct response to the time The Weeknd actually struggled performing, due to issues with his voice as well as his psyche. In the way the movie brought this very real problem that The Weeknd had into the movie, oh my god, I loved it. It felt so personal and real. But it doesn't really matter in the larger context of the movie because it's kind of glazed over, and also the rest of the movie is just so overdramatic that it's like, why do I really care? Nonetheless, I thought these scenes were more interesting than a lot of the other parts of the movie. Also, I will say I started really enjoying this movie a solid like hour and 20 minutes in. As long as you get past the first 80% of the movie, the next 20% is pretty good. I take that back. It's not pretty good. There's still some really corny moments, but it's much more enjoyable compared to the rest of the movie. I think a lot of my criticisms of this movie boil down to I don't really care about The Weeknd's problems. This movie, with the way it presents itself, as well as the way The Weeknd presents himself, I can't really root for anyone here. He's an asshole to everyone surrounding him in his orbit, and it's hard to sympathize with someone who's consistently a dick. The Weeknd is such a freaking diva, and he acts like a diva this entire time. Oh my gosh, he's so annoying. There are a bunch of flashbacks in this movie to earlier scenes, and they're redundant and repetitive, and they're redundant and repetitive. I've been really critical of this review. I think it's time to say something nice. I really like how the themes of drug usage and warping reality mix in with a lot of the surrealistic presentation of the movie. I think it's kind of art housey and experimental and cool. This movie is super ugly and dark, but like its atmosphere, I can't help but really like. They go back to shit really quickly. Another prop I'll give this movie, I think it's really ballsy to be one of the biggest artists in the world and come out with a weird experimental thriller movie that paints herself in a pretty bad light. I respect that risk, whether it's intentional or not. I also like, from a viewer's perspective, having to deal with an unreliable narrator because he's the best we got. We don't have anyone else we can trust or listen to throughout this experience. The times where the movie changes the aspect ratio is pretty corny. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is a movie about The Weeknd. Let's not get too daring here. And I'll say, a big part of me is really annoyed with how arrogant and shitty this movie is. But a small part of me really likes how arrogant and shitty this movie is. It's close to being in the, like, it's so bad it's good territory. Like, I found myself, like, kind of enjoying terrible aspects of this movie. Like, the climax of the movie should, like, kind of suck. But because of how arrogant this movie is, it like kind of works really well, and I love the execution on it. Also, this movie kind of rips off Misery by Stephen King. So all in all, this is to say, this movie sucks. You should not watch it. I don't recommend it, but I kind of enjoyed it more than I thought I would. That's not to say this is a great movie. You can only put so much whipped cream on a shit sundae. But I don't know, I didn't have an awful time. I actually found myself enjoying this at points. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't watch this unless you're a really big Weeknd fan or you're interested. 4 out of 10. I love you all. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bye.